taboo of the Three Kingdoms period for its enormous killing potential.
This is a Chinese halberd, ji, which can be wielded in two hands, either for thrusting or for cutting with. Long weapons like these are a mainstay of Chinese infantry from a very early period.
The ji was a long and powerful weapon that combined a heavy steel or bronze spear tip with the curved metal blade of the axe. Its development dates back to the Shang dynasty that ruled China over 3 millennia ago.
That's the key thing with these weapons. They can be used as spears, but they can also be used as cutting weapons wielded in two hands. You can imagine from the size of the weapon just how powerfully this can be wielded.
What made the ji a groundbreaking invention was that it was a multi-assault weapon. The spear end allowed the user to stab, and the blade of the axe could be used to slash and hook, making it a triple attack weapon.
The best areas to target with the halberd would have been areas where there were blood vessels that were quite close to the skin, say arteries that would rapidly bleed and cause death of the combatant through loss of blood.
It was not only the battlefield where weapons were used to kill. It was common in rural China for bandits to strike with no warning, sacking temples and robbing villages. To combat such attacks, there are legends of a deadly weapon that could not only defend against spears, staffs and swords, but was also effective against multiple attackers. Deer antler sabers were known throughout China. These specialized bladed weapons date to around the 18th century and consist of two crossed steel crescents. This crossing produces 4 curved claw-like points, one of which is extended as the main blade. They're believed to have last been used in anger by a legendary kung fu master, Dong Hai Chuan, who studied ancient martial techniques in the mountains of China. In the 19th century, he's said to have defeated many armed bandits while moving like a hurricane. Chinese martial artists Zhang Yi, Yan Hong, and Zhang Zhen are researching the ancient techniques of this mystery weapon.
What I have here is a pair of Yan Yang Yu, an ancient weapon. I've been practicing and using them for 6 years. As a weapon, it's very mean and very special. Its techniques include scratching, flapping, and checking.
The deer antler sabers allow Yan to defend himself against the staff and straight sword because his hooking and trapping techniques break their energy.
These are not toys, but genuine weapons, which cause casualties. When being used like this, they could stab at your enemy's throat.
As they are designed as direct appendages of the hand, they can trap weapons while also cutting and slashing, making them the ultimate short weapon. Since they're small, they can be concealed and used as a stealth weapon for assassinations. And as we'll see, stealth was an important element in some of China's most effective weapons. US Navy SEALs are famed for their ability to infiltrate and attack from under the water. But is it possible that ancient covert operatives used the same techniques thousands of years ago? There are legends of a secret weapon known as the MAC.
It's really like a long needle, and in that respect it parallels the Italian stiletto. If you watch a lot of American gangster films, they use ice picks. It's exactly the same thing.
The MAC is a mysterious weapon that is not listed in traditional ancient Chinese military manuals. According to legend, it was developed in the sacred mountains of Ma in central China during the Song dynasty between the 10th and 13th centuries.
These are the MAC. They work on a simple level. They can spin on a 360-degree axis. It allows me to move them. So here I'd gain a lot more force behind my punches and obviously for stabbing and slashing motions.
Water was common guerrilla terrain for Song soldiers and their enemies. All major ancient Chinese towns were built around rivers, lakes, and paddy fields. It's said that soldiers and assassins operating in these areas used the MAC to dispatch the sentries that patrolled buildings and ships at the water's edge.
As a stealth weapon, it's easily concealed. It's kind of like the modern commando knife that you see Navy SEALs and Royal Marines use nowadays. It doesn't have the same edge, but it is utilized very easily in exactly the same way.
Researchers today are looking into how the needles were actually used by covert forces in sentry removal. The killer would target a sentry standing near or in the water, where the 25-centimeter-long steel needles with a flat rhombus point are said to hold an advantage. Its design enables the user to maneuver stealthily underwater, retaining the hand dexterity and movement that a longer weapon would not allow. The ancient assassin would have used the sharp points of the needles to stab and slash unprotected arteries.
The subclavian and the femoral arteries are very much in exposed areas. As such, would be easy to target. If they targeted these areas and they'd driven one of these MAC needles into the artery, it'd be very difficult for the artery to close. If you managed to get them in between the ribs, the lungs would deflate so that the combatant can't breathe.
To complete their analysis of the MAC, the team will compare it with a longer weapon in a water combat situation. On land, a small weapon like the MAC would be no match for longer weapons with their extended range and heavier weight. The team wants to know whether the same applies in water. They are discovering that a long weapon that requires two hands is virtually impossible to use effectively against an enemy in the water.
The attempts of the practitioner to try and penetrate the water with the weapon was very, very difficult because of all the resistance. This thing almost hydroplaned across the top of the water and lost all its power. The results are that the MAC is indeed a very effective underwater weapon. Very much the ultimate stealth weapon in that time.
Like the MAC, the 9-section chain whip could have easily been concealed. Though its reach and unique abilities would have made it a land weapon, one that was deceptively vicious.
The 9-section chain whip is a weapon that was used to inflict both slashing and piercing injuries.
Consisting of 9 linked metal segments, the whip has a handle at one end and a metal dart at the other.
The best place to target would have been an unarmored area, such as the face, or the eyes, or the side of the head.
It's thought that the 9-section chain whip was first deployed on the battlefield as a tertiary weapon during the Jin dynasty of the 5th century AD. Over time, the weapon was adopted by assassins because it was easy to conceal and allowed the user to strike from a longer range.
When carrying it, you could coil it around your waist like a belt, or as people did in ancient times, in a pouch on your back. So if you were under attack from your opponents, you could use it as a secret weapon.
Using the latest electronic body protector equipment, the team has set Master Song, a leading practitioner, a challenge. How many blows can he inflict in a 15-second attack?
This body protection kit has very similar Bluetooth technology to your average mobile phone, laptop computer.
The team attaches equipment that uses air channel sensor foam to send data back to a computer. It will record Master Song's attack speed during a 15-second period. In 15 seconds, Master Song scored 2.2 hits per second.
33 hits in 15 seconds. Can you imagine what kind of effect 33 hits on someone's body, like you've just seen, would make?
If you hit the side of the neck, then obviously you can take out some of the carotid vessels and jugular veins and cause bleeding. If you hit the side of the head, you can possibly cause hemorrhagings inside the brain as a result of piercing that area of the brain.
The tests have shown that the hidden weapons developed for assassination attacks would have inflicted lethal wounds when in the right hands. But sometimes assassins required a weapon that had to remain hidden. Ancient Chinese engineers set their minds to designing such a device. This was 2,000 years before the invention of the high-velocity sniper rifle that can hit a target from over 1,000 meters, a different kind of unseen weapon.
All sorts of devices were invented to enable covert operations to get close to powerful individuals, to kill them, basically.
According to an ancient Chinese legend, there was a weapon that allowed the assassin to shoot his target in the face with a poisonous dart. The device was triggered when the assassin bowed.
The reason for the face being targeted is that it's not covered by anything and isn't armored.
Chinese assassins were expert in using poisons derived from animals found in the western mountains of China. Everything from snake, spiders, and centipede poison was used to kill, and kill fast.
If you have a poisonous needle going into the skin of the face is very well supplied by blood vessels, and any poison will be rapidly disseminated throughout the body and would probably reach the brain very quickly.
The back crossbow is believed to have been invented around the 11th century by Xu Liang Chen, but how the device delivered the poison has remained a mystery for over 1,000 years.
Now, the idea of these pieces is that they could be secreted about the person of the assassin, so he could get reasonably close to his target without being discovered. It probably would have been something of a suicide mission, because this was the only armament he'd probably be able to get through, and once he'd fired these things off, he would have probably been cut down pretty quickly by any kind of guards or retainers.
Poring over forgotten Chinese manuscripts, leading model maker Richard Windley is deciphering the back crossbow's mechanical components.
Now, this was strapped to the back of the assassin, and when he got close enough to his target, he would bow, and as he was bowing, this would line up with his target. He pulls a little hidden cord, which releases the trigger, and one single bolt is fired.
The internal mechanical components of the device allowed the single missile to be latched into the trigger mechanism and then set by using the pressure of the mechanical spring.
This is the bolt which we're hoping to fire from this device. There's a little groove on the collar which locks into the trigger mechanism, so when the trigger's released, it just simply unlatches that, and that's projected through the front of the device.
Although it's believed that this weapon was manufactured, mystery surrounds its effectiveness. For the first time in hundreds of years, the ancient design will be tested. Leading Shaolin Kung Fu fighter Ian Armstrong will investigate its potential as an efficient poison delivery system.
The issue, I think, with this is accuracy, that if I bow and lift my head so that I can look at the target that I'm shooting at, I'll shoot myself in the back of the head. So I have to drop the head, which means I'm shooting blind.
The back crossbow would have been fitted under the assassin's clothes, and the string attached to the trigger mechanism fed through his sleeve. The machine's design meant that the assassin needed assistance in setting the mechanism before going on his mission.
Okay.
Yep.
With the mechanism set, Ian will attempt to hit a target from 10 paces away.
Okay, now if you'd like to bend down now.
I would say that's more effective than I thought it would be, and I think that with practice you could get a reasonable degree of accuracy.
The missile penetrated the target to a depth of around 5 centimeters, deep enough to deliver poison into the unprotected skin.
It hit fairly centrally, a little bit low. It would be enough to hit a human body, but not accurate enough to, for instance, go straight into an eye or straight into the throat. Were it carrying poison, then all it's got to do really is get underneath the surface of the skin, poison into the bloodstream, and it could be quite lethal.
The test has revealed that while the mechanism would have been powerful enough to deliver a surprise poison attack, its lack of accuracy would have made it an unreliable assassination tool unless used by an experienced operative.